Okay, so today we're doing solving the unknown with absolute values. So as a reminder, this is absolute value and it makes anything positive. So if you look at 28b1, you have the absolute value of x equals 8. You will get two solutions for this because if we put in a positive 8 right there, then the absolute value of positive 8 is 8. If we put in a negative 8 in that absolute value, then the absolute value of negative 8 is still positive 8. So in this case, x equals a positive 8 or a negative 8. Or you can show it with two solutions like that. So the main thing that what you do for these is we wanted everything in absolute value on the left-hand side, the equal sign, and then over on the right, we just want one number. Then what you do is you take this whole, whatever's in the absolute value, you take it and you set it equal to a positive whatever this is, and then you set it equal to a negative of whatever that is. Okay? This one was the most simplest one. Look at 28C number 2 over here. So again, you want just only absolute value on the left side and you only want one number on the right side. So then what you can do is take everything that's in the absolute value and set it equal to a positive number of that. Then you take it, whatever's in the absolute value, and you set it equal to a negative that. Because if this was a negative 4 in here, the absolute value of negative 4 is a positive 4, and that would make this statement true. Okay, so you take whatever's inside here and set it equal to a positive that, and then you set it equal to a negative that, then you solve for x. So here, subtract 1 over, so then we would have 3x equals 3, divide both sides by 3, and one of your solutions is x equals 1. Now you solve this equation, subtract 1 over, and you have 3x equals, watch your signs, that would be a negative 5, subtract your 3 over, and so one of your solutions is x equals negative 5/3. If you have a fraction, always make sure you reduce. Alright, look at 28D3. The goal is to have only absolute value on one side and a number on the other. Well, we have a number over here. So I'm going to subtract this over so I can get my numbers together over there. So now I can have the absolute value of x minus 2 equals 1. Once you have absolute value, only absolute value on one side and a number on the other side, then you take whatever is in the absolute value and set it equal to a positive that answer. Then you take it and set it equal to a negative of that number. Because if this was a negative 1 in that absolute value, the absolute value of negative 1 does equal 1. So we're trying to find out what does x equal to make this in here a positive 1 or a negative 1, because then it will make this statement true. So then add 2 over here. So one of your solutions is x equals 3. Add your 2 over here. And one of your solutions is x equals 1. Again, watch your signs. You'll have two different solutions, but they will not be the same. Now look at 28A number 5. You have absolute value equals a negative number over here. Can I put is there anything that I can ever put in for x that I will, and once I take the absolute value of whatever that is, once you take the absolute value, will you ever get a negative number? No. Because taking the absolute value, it doesn't matter what this number is. Okay, that number could be 1 million, or it could be negative 1 million. Let's just write 1,000. If that was negative 1,000, that will give me negative 1,004, and the absolute value of a negative number is a positive number. So you will never be able to take the absolute value and ever get a negative number. So when you have a negative number over here on the right, no solution. Alright, look at 28D number 6. We have only an absolute value on the left-hand side. It doesn't matter how many things are inside of it, but we have only absolute value on the left and only a number on the right. So you take everything that's in your absolute value, so 3x plus 2 minus 4x plus 7, and you set it equal to a positive that number. Then you take all that stuff in the absolute value and set it equal to a negative of that number. And then you solve both equations, and that's your two different answers. Combining your x's, that would be negative 1x. Combining your numbers, that would be 9. Subtract my 9 over. Negative 1x equals 1. Divide both sides by negative 1. So x equals a negative 1. That's one of your solutions. Now come down here and solve it. Again, you're going to put the same thing. Combining your x's, negative 1x plus 9 equals a negative 10. Don't lose the negative. Subtract the 9 over. Negative 1x equals, watch your signs, that would be negative 19. Divide both sides by negative 1, so x equals, your other solution is a positive 19. Alright, look at 28C number 6. You have a square inside here, but still you have only absolute value. So take whatever is in the absolute value and set it equal to a positive of that. Then take whatever is in your absolute value and set it equal to a negative of that. This equation here tells me I'm going to get two solutions. This equation here tells me I'm going to get two solutions. So this one will have 4 solutions to it. Just solve one equation at a time. So let's solve this one. Subtract your 2 over. So now you have 2x squared equals 3. To solve for x, I need to get rid of this 2 first. It's being multiplied, so I want to divide it over. So I have x squared equals 3 over 2. To get rid of the square, take the square root of both sides. Anytime you take the square root of both sides, you can get the positive or the negative answer of that. This cancels. I'm going to rewrite this as plus or minus. When you do the square root of a fraction, that's the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. I can't leave a radical in the denominator, so I need to get rid of that radical. How do you get rid of a radical in the denominator? Multiply it by itself. So then x equals plus or minus. Multiply radicals together, that would be square root of 6. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4, and square root of 4 is just 2. This radical can't be simplified. You always look to see if you can simplify radicals. So those are 2 of your solutions. Positive square root of 6 over 2 and a negative square root of 6 over 2. Now let's go look at this one. Solving for this. Subtract your 2 over. So you have 2x squared equals negative 7. Divide your 2 over first before you take the square root. You want to get the x all by itself equals negative 7 over 2. Take the square root of both sides. Put your plus or minus in front of the radical. The radical and the square cancels there. So that would be x equals plus or minus. The square root of a whole fraction is the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator. In the numerator, I have a negative under the radical. What does negative under the radical mean? Imaginary. So that comes out as an I. So that would be x equals I square root of 7 over square root of 2. Still can't leave a radical in the denominator, so you have to multiply it by itself, and whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So x equals plus or minus I, multiply your radicals together, that'd be square root of 14 over square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4, and square root of 4 is just 2. Do not cancel these. You only do numbers to numbers and radicals to radicals. Since that's a number and that's a radical, you can't cancel those. So that would be your other 2 solutions.